Okay, so I call this making cash flow easy. I think this is probably the single most loved and hated topic in all of small business, all of finance, right? And there's a lot of financial pros that are out there on social media that talk about the importance of cash flow. And it is important. It is important, but I see very little practical advice on how to get more of it, right? And how to use it properly. So I felt we should have a session and unpack some of that. Sound fair to you?
Yeah, absolutely. I was actually telling someone this week, they asked me about being a business owner and what does that mean? And one of the things I shared with them is one of the big surprises I had is that I completely underestimated the value of cash flow. And it's not something that you learn really in school too much. It's not something that other people tell you about as being an entrepreneur. A lot of people talk about product market fit. They talk about how to grow your business, how to market it, how to find the right partner, all those things. And I just think cash flow is so important, and there's so little out there on it compared to so many other topics about running a business.
Totally agree. Too much selling and marketing, not enough, on the back end of how to generate cash. So I thought roadmap for today, we'll spend a few minutes talking about why generating cash is so hard, right? Why it feels so challenging. Um, we'll preview the three modules of an upcoming cash flow class that we've got, and then I thought we'd talk about some of the logistics of that class. So that's the plan for today. I thought it'd be fun to kick things off with one truth, three lies. I know the game is actually I think it's two truths and a lie, right? Is that how it's actually played? But it
And
felt more fun to maybe it's just a multiple choice question then, whatever. So one truth, three lies. Your goal is to try and figure out which one is the truth. And yeah, I probably teased it out already, but first one up is, good bookkeeping is required to generate cash, right? Is that a truth or is that a lie? You tell me. Number two, you need to understand accounting. You have to know how accrual accounting and P&L balance sheet, you have to know how that works to generate cash, right? Is that true or is that a lie? Number three, it takes a significant amount of time and effort to properly manage cash. Is that true or is that a lie? And then last, this will be the giveaway, right? This will be the giveaway. Cash flow is easy, right? Is that true or is that a lie? And I know I most people would probably invert this one's a lie. Number four. Number four is the answer if you couldn't already guess from the title of this presentation. Most people probably invert this and say, well, yeah, the first three are totally true. I gotta have good bookkeeping, I gotta know accounting, and I have to put a bunch of time and effort into this. And number four is the lie. Like this stuff isn't easy. But it actually is. It's actually cash flow is easy, and you don't need each of these other three things. That's not to say that you don't want them, but you don't need them necessarily to generate cash flow. And Joe, I think you and I learned this probably the hard way, right? And yeah, this is our story from 2018. This is the first company that Joe and I bought together. This was a little trucking company that delivered automotive parts in the middle of the night, right? So you can see here this text message on the left that delivered at 10 p.m. Hey, I'm not going to show up tonight. So in the middle of the night, call it 10 p.m. to 11 a.m. the next day, we would send a fleet of trucks out to go deliver automotive parts. You've probably heard the story. Your car goes into the shop. Oh yeah, we'll have that part tomorrow. Like that was us. We were delivering those things. And this was a challenging business to run, right? So here's some of the some of the pictures of things that we had to deal with, right? You got drivers calling in, an hour before their shift, not going to make it. You got trucks beaten up. You got all sorts of operational and personnel challenges to deal with. And then at the other side of the equation, it's like, okay, figure out how to manage your finances too. It's like, okay, well, these things are clearly more important. I need to go fix this broken truck and find a driver for tonight. And so, Joe, we had to learn on the fly how to figure out how to manage cash in this business. And to take it even a step further back, I'm a CPA and I know how to look at financial statements. I know how to analyze financial statements. But when we bought our first company, I didn't know how to do the bookkeeping, right? Joe didn't either. He's not a financial professional. And so we came into this as we're figuring out how to handle the bookkeeping. we had to really quickly come up with a way to track and manage cash so that we could stay alive to keep this business going. And so this is the genesis of the system that we've developed to really hone in on managing that cash flow while still being able to put most of our time and effort to dealing with the people, dealing with the ops, and figuring out how to grow the thing.
Yeah,
Fair?
I think, Colin, that the reason why this really resonates with a lot of business owners is that it's so easy to get caught up in these fires that happen on a daily basis, and maybe some of those things that we experienced in the trucking industry may be more extreme than what you see in your business. Where if you have some damaged supplies or damaged deliveries, like that's a big deal. We've got to be on the phone with our supplier. We got to figure that out. If we have a truck that goes off the road or is involved in an accident, oh, that's you drop everything and handle that. You have a driver that doesn't show up. Those things may be unique to that business, but the general idea is those things happen in every business. You're always going to deal with staffing issues. You're always going to deal with supplier issues. You're always going to have shortages or issues with equipment. And as the business owner, you are that person who is on the spot doing those things. And I think, Colin, as you suggested, like you don't have time to sit back behind your computer and say, how am I going to manage my cash flow? Let's take a look at Excel for a little bit and spend a day doing that. So I think that was just the big shock to us is, we thought we'd run this business and we could sit behind the computer and really manage things properly. But when you're in the heat of the moment, you have to handle that fire that's right in front of you. So I think this is, really the process that came out of that that's really been instrumental in helping us grow our businesses.
Fair to call it life changing? Yeah, I
Absolutely.
mean, other people we've shown it to have said that those exact words, right? Life changing. So the what we found is that cash flow is actually very fast, it's pretty simple, and it's easy to execute, right? And I think it comes down to having the proper tools to do that. And what we'll talk about today is really this core tool. And yes, there's some information behind it that you need to have to use it properly, but a single simple tool can end to end manage cash for your business. I mean, you could literally run an entire company with nothing but this. Sorry for all the accountants that are on here. Yeah, I'm an accountant too, and I love accrual financial statements more than anybody, which is sad to say, but this is a really, really important tool, and you can use it to run a company if you're truly lacking in some of those other areas. We call it a weekly cash flow worksheet or a 13-week cash forecast. Both of these things are maybe familiar to you. I've seen a lot of presentations on these tools. I've seen a lot of other folks' methodology, and we think we've built something that's a pretty unique angle to this tool. So that's the truth, and we're going to convince you that it's true
Well,
over the next 30 minutes. So go ahead. Sorry.
Before you move on, Colin, a couple of things about the 13-week cash flow worksheet that I think are just really important to call out. One, that this is not a business model or a system or something like that takes tons of time and energy to adopt. It's not something that has to go through the entire company. It's really just meant to be a tool for you to use if you're an owner, you're operating the company, you're one of those higher ups in the company that really needs to have the pulse on the cash flow. This is meant to be a tool for you. So it's something that you can add into a system that's already there. It's something that you can easily put into your process. It doesn't rely on a huge overhaul on how you're operating your business to get there. So one, I think that's really important. Two, this process works for any type of business. I mean, we have a handful of different types of businesses, but we have some that are really inventory centric, and this model works for that. We have some that are more service-based businesses, and this works for that. It worked for our trucking business. So no
Yeah.
matter what industry, what type of business you're running, the framework is still going to be the same, and it's a tool that you can use. So it's really, really helpful to add this into your tool belt.
Yeah. Good. Great point. Great point.
Okay, well, let's go through the different myths here that you had, Colin. The first one being good bookkeeping and financial statements are the only way to get more cash flow.
Yeah. I hear this often, right? I can't start this because my books aren't good yet. And sorry, accountants, plug your ears. right? This is a chance for business owners to manage from the bank balance, right? And I'm not saying that you shouldn't ultimately strive for good bookkeeping. I think that's absolutely important. But from a step one, if you feel like you don't have a handle on cash and you're flailing, this is the best place to start. And you don't necessarily need to have good books to work directly from your bank account in managing cash flow, right? You can go get that information independent of it while you're still maintaining your books over here. So if you know how to read your bank balance and you know that, hey, a positive number is money coming in and a negative number is money going out, then you can do this, right? So you don't necessarily have to have good bookkeeping or any financial statements. Shoot, you could do this from day one. If you just started your company, you don't even have financials yet, you could run with this system right out of the gate to get the ball rolling. So,
Yeah, well, one other thing I hear from a lot of business owners, when they're thinking about their financials, they say, "Oh, well, we haven't closed the month yet, and it's 2 or 3 weeks
oh,
into the month, right?" And it's like, well, that's great. You're going through the formal close process and everything, but during that time, I see so many business owners that are really flying blind and they don't know what's going on. What I really like about this, Colin, you could pull down this process, you could pull out this tool, and you could do it every day if you wanted to, right? And you could update it appropriately. Or if once a week is your cadence, you can go in on Monday morning and say, great, I know the cash that I'm dealing with today. And to
yeah,
me, that's really valuable. It just allows me to sleep a lot better than saying, well, let's wait for the bookkeeper to get back or the accountant to get back to us. We still have a couple more weeks before everything will be closed out to know how we did. So
no doubt.
I think, it's just, again, it's a tool that can be used in tandem with a good bookkeeping process, but it doesn't rely on that bookkeeping process. It's something that you can do on your own at any given moment. Moving on here to myth number two, I need to understand accounting and finance to manage cash flow. Is that the truth, Colin?
Oh, so most people will tell you yes, and I think I have yet to meet a Main Street business owner who truly understands what a proper accrual is, right? So I think there's just accounting concepts that are not easy to grasp, and most of the people that I've met, I don't know about you, Joe, who have started businesses. I'm lucky to have you, right? I'm a CPA, I'm a finance person, but I couldn't do this on my own. Most people that start businesses, they're ops oriented people or they're selling and marketing oriented people, and they don't necessarily have that financial acumen to build on as they're growing their company, right? So if there's a tool out there that can help bridge the gap between understanding accounting and finance, this is it, right? In cash, in my view, is in the short term, I should say, is all about timing, right? It's the best example is you work a W-2 job, you show up for Monday, you don't get paid until the next Friday, right? If it's a biweekly payroll. So you've got earnings on Monday when you showed up for work and you worked that 8 hours, but you haven't been paid for it yet, right? So cash flow is really all about timing and really building a tool that helps you understand that without needing all the nitty-gritty details behind how do I read the balance sheet? How do I read the cash flow statement that comes out of QuickBooks? Hey, P&L shows profitability. Why isn't it in my bank account? I think there's ways to work around that in tandem to it. Again, I think if you're trying to build the stepping stones to get you there. So don't need to know accounting necessarily. Don't need to know accounting necessarily.
Okay. And myth number three here, it's going to take a lot of time and investment before I see improvement in my cash flow.
Oh, I love this. I could do this in now at this point, we could do this and maintain our worksheet in about 15 minutes a week. It maybe takes about 30 to 60 minutes to get off the ground that first time as you're going through the heavy lift of building it, but that's it. You're talking about maybe a 30 to 60-minute investment to create this thing, and then maybe 15 to 20 minutes a week to maintain it. And this is giving you months of visibility into your company, right? I think there's a lot more behind that 20 to 30 minutes to truly understand how to use it properly, right? What it's telling you. So I think there's some supplemental information that goes with it. But as far as building and using this thing, I mean, it's a 30-minute process, right? It's a 30-minute process weekly. And Joe, you don't have an accounting finance, you can build this thing. You've done it before to maintain this. So
Absolutely, it is. It's a tool that I can use and do use regularly. You know, Colin, I think back about to our early days in the trucking business, and of all the things I dealt with as a business owner, having visibility into the cash flow of the business was the one thing that allowed me to sleep better. You know, we were up all night a lot of times, and it's like I'm always going to get a call in the middle of the night about a staffing issue, about a truck that's broken down, or something that is happening like that. But you know what? Not knowing where our cash flow is, where what that was the one thing that kept me up at night, really, right? It's like I can handle all the other stuff. I can go jump in a truck if I need to. I can fix a truck. I can do all those things. But the one thing that I just didn't have any visibility into at the beginning was, are we going to run out of money next week? Do we have what we need to pay to pay our employees, right? I mean,
Yeah.
that's the biggest thing that would keep me up at night until we really developed this process.
If you're going to run out of money, it's nice to know at least 6 weeks ahead of time, right? That's the goal. That's the bogey, right? Uh, so I've heard, okay, so we laid out these common misconceptions, and maybe we haven't convinced you that they're not true, but I know some folks on here are accountants or have an accounting background, and they're probably looking at this stuff saying, "Oh my gosh, you're speaking blasphemy right now." Like, well, what if I do have good bookkeeping? I do have an accounting background, and I got, you're a crazy person, plenty of time and resources, right? I don't know who in the business world has that, but if you do have that, it's still possible. It's still possible to have all three of those things and run out of money, right? It does happen frequently, right? Very frequently. And what I would say is, as our companies, Joe, have graduated, our largest company is now probably about 25 million in revenue, and we still use this in tandem with our normal flow of looking at the financial statements, the accrual financial statements. So these are complementary tools, not mutually exclusive tools. Fair?
Yeah, and Colin, to build on that just a little bit, you know, as we've grown our companies, this becomes increasingly important, right? I mean, on day one, it's just like, wow, we opened our eyes to something brand new, and it's really great to have this visibility. But it doesn't end there. As you continue to grow, you consume more cash to do so, yeah, and your bills get bigger. You know, all those things that go with it, where it's like, wow, payroll is now a larger piece of the pie on a weekly or biweekly basis. Or when you have a bill to pay, you know, for a supplier, it's generally going to be a lot more than it was when we were a $2 million business. So this is just significantly more important because we're just playing the same game with a lot more at stake, right? And there's a lot that you
Oh,
lose if you're not doing it right. So it's really interesting. I think when we first started using this, I saw it as oh, we scratched this together and this is really helpful, but we're going to graduate out of that. And the reality is we haven't graduated out of that, and we become more reliant on it as we grow and as our business evolves. So it's just again, one of those interesting things that has really developed and has become part of something that's really important for us in the growth of
yeah.
our business.
When you've got when we first started those bills, oh yeah, our largest bill coming around the corner is maybe $1,000, and now, you see a vendor payment coming out 3 months from now, and it's $350,000 for a single invoice. You're like, okay, yeah, I really want to know about that and plan around it. So the stakes have definitely increased. So you're right. It's absolutely a great supplemental tool. So the system that we've developed, really we started with this tool, and it's morphed in a sense over the years to encompass a couple of other steps with it. And one is really understanding how to track and manage that cash, right? And really, like, there's a lot of talk about cash flow, and I don't know that I've seen one consistent universal definition of cash flow, right? You may call it one thing, I may call it a different thing. Your CPA or your accountant may call it something totally different, right? So we got to have a good definition of what cash flow is, and then show you how to read those statements, right? Understand what they're telling you. Uh, Second piece to this system is what we're talking about now. This is the ultimate tool. To me, this is the non-negotiable. Every single business, I'm talking 100% of businesses out there, need to be using this tool. That's your weekly cash flow. And that's your short term, you're looking around the corner. What's coming in the next 90 days that I need to be aware of, so that I don't run out of money. Or if it shows me that I'm going to run out of money, I have enough leeway to do something about it. That's the goal. So this number two right here is the most critical aspect of this system. We have since morphed that into a longer term cash projection called our monthly cash budget. And this is the one that bridges the gap between our accrual financials and cash flow. So we're kind of looking further down the road to see, hey, we're targeting 15% revenue growth for the year or for next year. Like, do we have the resources to get there? So that's our longer term view. It's a little bit less accurate than our weekly cash flow worksheet. And then last, this is just through years of running a bunch of businesses, but we've compiled all the different tactics and strategies to help improve or manage those cash flows, right? Because not everything you do is actually going to increase cash flow. Some of these tactics may help you delay or defer cash flows, right? Which are also helpful from a managing cash standpoint. So this is the framework, if you will, that we've devised. Joe, anything to add on this one?
No, I think that's spot on. And again, as you said, that core, the weekly cash flow for short-term projections is really the key to all this. It holds it all together. And as you said, if you have a big bill come around the corner or something, then this gives you at least that time frame that you can respond. Something I've learned about business owners, business owners are so resilient. They're able to handle anything that is thrown at them. We see it time and time again. And most businesses that I talk to, it's like, the owner will tell you, oh, I should have gone out of business at least 3 different times because of these different scenarios. And I think all we're trying to do with the cash flow planning process that we have here is to give you enough time as a business owner to respond to those different things, right? If you learn, as Colin mentioned, you have a $350,000 bill that lands on your lap and it's due tomorrow, that's going to be incredibly hard for most businesses to respond to. If you know that that's coming 12 weeks out, all of a sudden you can put a plan in place. You can start figuring out what's the solution to really go through that and make that payment that you need to do. So I think this process is just incredibly crucial to giving you that visibility, giving you the runway that you need to use that creativity that you have as a business owner to come up with a solution to respond to something. It's just incredibly hard to if you just say this is due tomorrow.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, you're telling me that I shouldn't wait. Like, if it's today's the 21st of August, and if you don't have your financial statements for the month of July in hand, you've already looked at them and read them. Well, shoot, at the 21st of August, you're probably already thinking about how's August shaping up, right? And what am I going to do about September? So if you can get on this faster, simpler, more rapid time frame, like, you can close, right? The bank only processes transactions Monday to Friday. So you can close the books, so to speak, every single week, such that you're dealing with real information that's full and complete, right? Real time, and you're thinking about the current week and the next week. I mean, it shortens your view. You're really looking around the corner, truly. So this is the structure for the class that we've developed, right? And I want to talk about each of these. Really, there's three components in here, kind of like a foundational topic, two sets of projections, and then really the tactical nitty-gritty stuff that you can do, like the actions that you can take to start improving cash. Those are kind of the three components within these four steps. So I want to break each of those down a little bit so that you can understand, when we kick this thing off, what you'd be in for. So this first component, tracking cash flow and reading the data, right? We talked about, you've got to know what the definition of cash is, how to read it, how to calculate it, how to track it. So we talk about, cash versus accrual accounting. You've got your financial statements, you've got your bank balance. They're not one and the same necessarily. They're giving you kind of two sets of information. You need to understand the difference between those. We show you how to read that cash flow statement from QuickBooks or from your accountant, from your CPA, actually make sense of it. Not enough people look at that statement. We want to show you what it means. Profitability and cash flow, two separate cycles with two separate sets of drivers. And the number one thing that I feel like I hear from a financial standpoint is, well, shoot, I have profitability, but it hasn't shown up in my bank account yet. Where'd it go? And so we want to explain to people here's what drives profitability. Here are the things that drive cash flow, and where do they differ, so that you can convert more of that profit into cash at the end of the day, and then tracking this cash flows on a weekly and monthly basis. So think about this first component as like, the boring lecture slash foundational information that you need to really understand what it is that you're looking at. I think it's one thing to get a cash flow worksheet or a cash flow statement, and you're staring at it and you're like, cool, like I don't know how to read it, right? It's a foreign language to me. So, we set the bar with, here's the foundational info to truly understand what it's telling you. Joe, anything to add?
No, and I think that's important to call out that, Colin, you told us up front that cash flow is easy. That the things that you're showing here on the screen are not easy things. I think that, as you said, like, this is the foundational material that we're going to cover, and it's necessary, really. I think going back to the tools that you suggested, you need 20 to 30 minutes a week to really track your cash flow, to make it useful in your business. All the information that we're going to be teaching during this initial module is really preparing you for that. Is that a fair assumption, Colin?
No doubt. Yep, no doubt. And I think, every time you and I chat, there's always some educational component to it. Oh, hey, help me understand what this is telling me, right? Because now, as we've graduated, we spend more time looking at our cash flow statements from our set of financials, from our P&L and our balance sheet, and so I think there's some information that's helpful to understand what's going on there that you can bring back to that weekly cash worksheet. So I view this as setting the stage. This bonus material, it's great to be able to refer back to this stuff, as your company scales and graduates. Module 2, I think this is really the secret sauce. This is that core tool that I feel every business should be using. This is projections, right? This is both historic, looking back in time, where did my cash come from and where did it go? And then looking forward in a short-term manner, using the weekly cash to say, what do the next 90 days look like? Where are the potholes? When am I going to run out of money? Or if you're in good position, hey, do I have enough money to take a distribution, right? On the other side of the equation is, hey, I've got too much money coming in. How can I properly use it? So the weekly cash flow is the ultimate tool. We spend a lot of time talking about this one, or we do a full demo showing you how to build it, how to use it. So that's the short-term cash projection. Longer term, I think about this as graduating from one tool to the next. You got your cash flow under control, great. Right now you can set your sights to the longer term view. Okay, I want to target 15, 20, 30% revenue growth. This is what it's going to take to get there. That long-term view on cash, which I think is critical, right? Because you may be a business that's in a full year profitable, but in the monthly view, man, you got a lot of ups and downs along the way, right? So Joe, we've got a seasonal business in our company, and yeah, January to August are brutal, and we generate all of our cash from September to December of every year. So having that longer term monthly view helps us get comfortable with, okay, how deep is the trough, right? And when do we need resources to make it through the seasonal period of that business? And the last, big believer in demo, showing people how to do something. So, this is not all theory. We pull this up, we use real info, we show you how to take numbers like straight out of your bank account and build this thing from scratch, so that you can walk out of this class really being able to run with it out of the gate, and create your own and then start using it. So this module 2 is, I would say, the key, tool building aspect of the program. Anything to add?
No, Colin, I think you're speaking music to my ears, right? You started talking about distributions, you started talking about growing 20 to 30%. Those are things I like to hear as a business owner. And as you suggest, like, this is the tool to get you there. I'm sure we all know those owners of the business who are like, oh, I took a big distribution this month, and then the next month they're putting cash back in the business, right? And it just seems so silly. And it's very clear that they don't have a handle on what their business needs are. And as you suggest, that's a number of different reasons. It could be seasonality, it could be large equipment purchases, different things. This is really that tool, the core piece of how do we plan for that? How do we plan for growth? How do we plan for profitability? Things that are really exciting to talk about as a business
Yeah.
owners. Yeah,
Yeah.
this is the fun section for me.
Yeah, and not to be, pessimist or realist about it, but the golden rule, I think the golden rule of business is live to fight another day, right? So I would rather know that I've got enough ammunition to fight another day. So I think that you talked about being able to sleep well at night. I cherish this to be able to comfortably know that I'm going to make it through the next couple of months at least with a high degree of certainty. So we want to show people how to do that. And then last, I think this is the fun stuff. I know you like hearing that. I like to know about, strategy and tactic are two totally different things. So to me, the strategy is you got to understand your financial situation. Are you a rapidly growing company? Are you a brand new company, right? You just started 2 months ago. Are you a mature business with slowing growth? Are you highly levered, right? You got a lot of debt that you're trying to manage around. So, knowing your financial situation helps set the strategy for how you're going to manage cash. And then all those tactical things, right? What are the things that we can actually do? So we show you how to use the tools that we built in the module 2, and then we give you that playbook for just wringing more cash out of your business. And really that has turned into what I would call a cheat sheet of all sorts of different tactics that you can use in different situations, just to help get more cash flow out of your business. So I think about this as we're on the ground floor and we're fighting, scratching, clawing our way to get more cash flow, get it to increase over time. So I think this is the fun stuff that's more practical, hands-on, like, okay, this is cool and everything, but like now what do I do? That's what this third module is all about.
Yeah, that makes sense, Colin. And just to recap here, I think what we're saying though is, the core of it is really this 13-week cash flow worksheet, but we are teaching it over a 3-class session. Is that right?
That's right. That's right. I
Yeah.
guess we can jump into some of the logistics here, but you're right. It's a core tool with some information, right? Set the stage with some information, understand the core tool, and then tactical info on how to use it, right? That's how I would frame it.
But
So what we're
once
doing
you've
is
really invested in learning that up front, then we're talking it's 20 to 30 minutes a week of what we're going to deploy in our business that's really going to be useful.
Yeah, that's right. It's you get it set up and then you kind of go into a maintenance mode where you're monitoring it and maintaining it and then using that tool to help drive increased cash flow over time. Okay, so what we're talking about here, right? The whole backdrop, whole premise of this whole thing is that in a couple of weeks we're kicking off a cash flow class. We've done a number of these and we've refined it over time. We work with business owners directly from a service model to deploy this in their business. So we've helped other businesses implement this in their company. I would say it's really targeted toward owners and operators, right? If you've got a lieutenant or a manager in place, and then also business advisors. So folks who are working directly with businesses, consultants, CPAs, accountants, bankers, even SPDCs. We work with a lot of other people who help business owners directly. And this is a great tool for them to take back to those businesses. So that's who we're typically working with when we do these classes.
What about nonprofits? Does this work for nonprofits as well?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, nonprofits are businesses with slightly different objectives, right? And slightly different sources and uses of cash. But I think all nonprofits, hands down, could benefit from, management and practices that come from the for-profit world. So this would hands down absolutely work in a nonprofit organization. And I sit on a nonprofit board and we've deployed this with that nonprofit. I think it's highly, highly valuable. So really what the core of this is, it's 3 sessions. It's virtual sessions. So we get together just like this. We talk through some things. We show you how to build these things. We give you the templates so that you can take your own info, drop it into the templates and start running with it. And hopefully even bring your information to those sessions and work alongside us. And then there's a pretty comprehensive guidebook that goes with it. Some folks just prefer learning through reading as opposed to watching videos or listening to things. So, we've got different formats for different folks and their preferred learning methods. We'll do 3 classes starting on September 11th. It will also include online access to the course. So this will become, something where you can log in much like a YouTube video and watch it on demand. So if you wanted to go back and refer to something or rewatch the demo on how to build the weekly cash flow, you'll always have that available to you. All the downloads, the guidebook, all accessible as part of it. So that's the core logistics for the class. Price is $195, gets you lifetime access to it, which I think is a pretty sweet deal. So there's no subscription component that comes with it. Here's the link on where you can register for it. Every business owner wants to turn profit into cash, and they need to start paying attention to cash in order to make that happen. And it's not as hard as you think to get there. Really, it really isn't. It really isn't. And whether you take our class and you see our system for doing it, or you go somewhere else and find some material to get you there, it's not that challenging to do it. But you have to pay attention to it. You have to pay attention to it. So you got to have a good methodology, a good tool that will help you get more cash out of your business.